Hi guys, and welcome back to Scale Motor. So today we are doing something completely different for me. We are building an aircraft. So it's going to be a long video, even though I haven't gone super in depth. I've just tried to put it all into one video, just because I wouldn't know how to build a build series for something like this. Yeah, I was a bit stumped. I wasn't even going to do a video before it. I was kind of convinced to do it, so I didn't really know what to film. I didn't really know how much I was going to be able to talk about it because I didn't know much. I used some words in this video which I never thought I'd use in a modelling video, but it is something completely out of my comfort zone. Something I was going to do anyway. I wanted to build an aircraft, and then unfortunately, due to the passing of a friend of ours, Mr. Gary Pashley, we decided we were going to be doing a group build to commemorate him. Gary absolutely loved F-15s, so a good chunk of us done some F-15s, and that's what I'm going to be building. My first aircraft, if we're not counting that 2-hour speed build I done on the ISM live show, which I'm hoping we're not, because that was terrible. It was literally done in 2 hours. So yeah, I don't really want to count that. The first aircraft I'm actually trying. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. So we're doing the F-15 for the Brothers in Arms Memorial group build for Gary Pashley. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the painting more than anything. So much so that I think I will do more aircraft. Now, I just want to brace you guys before the video. There's not going to be some super duper explanations. There's not going to be... I'm not going to go into massive detail about everything. And I'm not... Sorry. That message from my girlfriend. Interesting. Yes. Cool. That seemed very disingenuous. It was interesting, actually. I was interested. But yeah, we're going to... I'm not going into very much loads of detail with my descriptions, because I don't know what anything is. I don't know what it does. I'm not sure what the markings are for. All I know is it flies. Or it's meant to. Anyway, I don't know if this one flies. This one wouldn't fly. But it is meant to fly. That's all I know. So yeah, we're going in blind. So I'm not doing a full build series because it would be 99.9% dead air, because I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know what parts to focus on. So I just thought, you know what, I'm going to stick it all in one video. This is more of a video about the outcome rather than the journey. Even though I did enjoy the journey, it's it's more of a, not to show you guys how to do it or what I would do. This is just to show you, it's more of a meta thing. It's just to show you that you can do things which are out of your comfort zone. You can, if you've always wanted to build a tank but thought you wouldn't be able to do a good job of it, do it. You never know. And even if you don't do a good job, at least you enjoyed. As long as you enjoyed, that's all that matters. And I thoroughly enjoyed this, so I thought I may as well pop it out as a video. So yeah, there's not really much else I can say apart from it's an aircraft. So F-15 aficionados and aircraft gurus, please do not shout at me for some of my descriptions and some of the words I use. And yeah, please don't count the rivets, because I know there's at least 4 missing. But yeah, let's just crack on. Before we jump in, I just wanted to ask if you guys could please subscribe. You've been excellent. You've got me well over that 1,000 mark, which I was going for. Now I'm trying to get the watch. I was up with 3,500 and something. I'm trying to get to the 4,000, the magic 4,000 now, just to monetize my channel, and not because I want this to be a massive moneymaker for me. I know it's not going to be. It'd just be nice to get something back from doing these videos, other than the satisfaction that you guys are enjoying. And speaking of that, if you are satisfied, if you are enjoying, please do leave a comment, because it does help. Leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. And just watch the video. Like I said, it's going to be a long one. Get a cup of tea, pop your feet up, and we can get those watch hours up together. So yeah, now let's jump in. Okay, so we're starting off with a little build up of the cockpit. It's not funny, don't laugh. So yeah, not much to say. As mentioned, I don't know much about aircraft at all. So yeah, this was 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So they do locate quite positively. So yeah, that'll go on nicely. There was a bit of a fiddle to get this back bit to line up. But at this point, I decided I was going to leave one side off just so I could get in there with dry brushing and whatnot. Next up, we moved on to paint. This colour I mixed myself. I don't know any ratios, unfortunately. It's a bit of a blue and some grey. Let's just look closer to the cockpit colours I was seeing online. This is sprayed through the UMP Apex 0.35 needle, and we're using I think we're using acrylics for this, and if we are, then we will be using the UMP thinners. Okay, and when that was dry, we added a load of Tamiya panel line wash, and then we came in after that was dry with a cotton bud dipped in a little bit of Sansador waterless mineral spirits, just to take the wash off the high points. You know, I'm on the lookout for new cotton buds. I know Paul over at ISM has got different ones, because these Johnson ones, they've seemed to have gone downhill. They seem to be very, very fluffy, and the solvents seem to just dissolve the glue holding the actual cotton bud on the end, and literally the whole bud comes off the stick, which is really annoying. But yeah, we did spend a little bit of time after this picking off little bits of fluff, annoyingly. And there we go. Now we're going to do some dry brushing, and we're using the AK True Metal steel, and we've literally just got a bit on the end of our paintbrush. And what I'm doing off camera now is just wiping off the vast majority of that paint, just so we can hit over the high points, just so we can give a bit of a metallic sheen. And there you can see it brings a little bit more life, and it makes it look a little bit more metallic. And then you got to throw it across. And once we were done with all that, it was on to a little bit of decaling for the interior. Not much to say here, really. The Great Wall Hobby decals aren't the greatest, but they went down completely fine using the UMP decal solutions. I went straight for the strong. So first of all, we put a bit of water on, because I think my micro sol is, that's the blue one, micro set. I think my blue micro something or other is a bit off. Obviously, everything, I think it has a shelf life, so I think there's a few issues with that. So yeah, we just used straight water, then we got it on where we needed it to go, and then we put the UMP decal solution over the top. I do apologise that I am out of focus, unfortunately. What you can't see is I'm actually I'm going to be blasting this with the heat gun, and then I'm using a cotton bud just to push it down into the recesses. That's actually tweezers. Generally I use a cotton bud, But there we go. We've come back after the heat, the decal solution, and some poking, and we got that in place. And now we're rebuilding the cockpit because it did fall apart. But yeah, so these two sides fit, like I said, quite positively on this back piece. However, I had stuck them and accidentally broke them, so sticking them back was a bit of a nightmare. I did have to shave a little bit off, which I done off camera. And here's our seat, which single seat, this aircraft, and in the back is just avionics, I think. Some bits and bobs, but we're just using a little bit of that UMP. That's not UMP, that's Tamiya extra thin on the seat just to stick it in place. I did have to snip a little bit off the bottom of the seat just to get it to fit. Next, we're moving on to the wings. I'm guessing these are parts of the intake as well. You can see there's two little square pieces which I've stuck on just to the left of the brush now and the right of the brush now. There's two different options. One which kind of flattens the top and one which makes like an indent on the top, as you can see there by my fingers. I didn't know which one was right, so I just put what I thought looked the best to my eye. And then these bits go in, which look like to me intakes. This middle part, this body, or whatever it is. I do apologise for all the hardcore aircraft builders or F-15 aficionados. I have no idea what these parts are. The whole idea of doing this video is just to show that you don't have to be an expert in the genre to enjoy building something. I have no clue about these planes, which I've mentioned, or just planes in general. And yeah, I still really enjoyed myself. But yeah, anyway, not much in the way of seam lines to deal with. Pretty much nothing at all, because these are all panel lines, or so I was told. And from the photos I've seen, they all look like panel lines anyway. So I've popped a bit of glue on the locating points, and I've given it a good old squeeze into place. After the squeeze, it does fit quite well. You've just got to get it into place, and once it's in place, it seems to stay there nicely. And there we go, that kind of gap on by the main body can barely be seen. And then we just moved over and done exactly the same on the other side, just popping a bit of glue in all the kind of locating holes. This is Tamiya extra thin again, just anywhere that looks like it will connect. And then we're going to pop this down. We did, yes, we did. We drilled 2 holes on either of these pieces, which are called out for in the instructions. I just periodically rubbing my fingers together to make sure I don't have any glue on my fingers, because a nice big glue fingerprint wouldn't look great. These parts, these are intakes. I'm guessing they meant to move. There's 2 different options. They did not fit well at all, which is why we've got some tape on there, just to kind of hold it in place. So what I done is I got it to where I thought it should go, and then I run some Tamiya extra thin along the seam, held it in place, and then we got another little bit of masking tape just to hold that in place. I'm just giving it a rub just to make sure there's no kind of overspill or glue leakage before we put the tape down. But we done the same on both sides, because like I said, the fit on these wasn't excellent. Okay, and now we're just gluing the tail pieces on. I don't know if they can go in the wrong way, because they look very similar on either side. And I'm not exactly certain if they should be bolt upright or if there should be a slight lean to them. I just thought they looked a little bit better with a slight lean, so I just put a slight little lean on them. Again, they're probably completely wrong, and I'm going to get shouted at by F-15 aficionados. But yeah, I don't care. I enjoyed. So we got those, and then these things, which I'm told are elevators. And they're just on a pin, so they kind of pivot around that pin, and they can go whichever position you want them to go in. I think, anyway. But I just thought I'd put them in nice and straight, just because my idea was to get this aircraft sitting down as if it was on the runway on display. There was a pesky seam line going down the middle of the canopy. Now, I know a couple of other people who built this kit for the this group build, the Gary Pashley Brothers in Arms Memorial build, and they've all had pesky seam lines, but a couple have had issues with the canopy cracking. So I decided I was going to go a little bit. I didn't want to get too overzealous, so I used the UMP buffer, and I just went in with the blue side, just to scuff it up a bit, just to get a bit of that seam away, and then we used the white to bring it back up, and then I did also use some UMP polish as well, just to kind of bring it back nice and clear, and it worked, although I did end up ruining it. We'll get to that later. Now we're in the booth. Now this was my favourite part about the whole build, was the paint. I really enjoyed painting this, and this is what's making me want to do another one, I think, just for the paint. So we started off, we've got a mixture of Mr. Surfacer 1500 black and white to make a nice grey. There's not going to be much to watch of the priming, because we ended up with a colour pretty much exactly the same as the plastic. I couldn't really tell exactly where it was going down, but we did do 3 thin coats. It was thinned with Mr. Rapid Thinner, just because that's pretty much all I had at hand at that point, unfortunately, but it didn't cause any issues and it still went down nice. And we also made sure to prime the other pieces. These are the exhaust cans. I don't know, they cool looking things, and they move, and that's where hot stuff comes out. So we made sure to paint those, and we also done various other little bits which were to be attached later on. And then now we're using just straight Mr. Surfacer 1500 white on the landing gear. It wasn't just the landing gear. I think it was just the landing gear we used this on, because that was meant to be white. So we used the Mr. Surfacer. I did also spray the inside of those super cool circular exhaust things on the back where the hot stuff comes out of with this, because they were meant to be white inside too. Next up, AK Light Ghost Grey. I bought the AK Real Colour set for this, and I was pleasantly surprised. So again, this is thinned with Mr. Rabbit Thinner. Less chance of a gloss coat because we don't want it really glossy. I think it was about 60-40 thinner to paint. And then we just came in with our base colour. This paint covered really well. As you can see, my first coat was a little bit thick, so that's fine though. We can see the difference, and it went down really nice, and we went all over the model, but we didn't go, for full coverage. It was just a sort of thick coat we went for. So after that, we come in with exactly the same colour, going a little bit thicker, but focusing on the centre of the panel lines, the centre of the panels, and a bit less towards the actual panel lines. This gives a kind of visual difference, and I know many people do shade their panels and everything in various different ways. Some people pre-shade, some people post-shade. I think this is kind of like, I was in the middle of doing it, and I thought, hang on, this looks pretty good, so I'm going to do that. That's a great thing about modelling, I think. There are no rules. Just do what you think looks good. As you can see, I did mask my canopy and it did start falling off, which was rather annoying because I had to keep poking it back in place. But there you go, you can see that effect you've got there. Then I did go over the top with another thin coat of the light ghost grey base colour, just to tone it down, just to make it a little bit more subtle. But yeah, it was a really, really fun thing to do. I quite enjoyed seeing it come alive. Here we are, still going over with that thin coat just to tone it down a bit. I did start on the bottom, just because it'd be less noticeable. And if I messed it up, I wouldn't have much damage control to do. But again, like I said, I was happy with that. Next up, I realised that there was actually some camo to this aircraft. And it's in the form of some kind of weird blob shapes on top. So I used the dark ghost grey, which is another colour which comes in the AK Real Colours set. Real Colours? Yes, Real Colours, yeah. Which they're lacquer paints, just so you know. And I seen there was no kind of like, I don't know, I just decided to freehand it, to be honest, because there was no straight lines, they were all wigglies, and I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. So first of all, I done the outline, and the good thing I think about doing it this way is you can do your outline, and if you mess up somewhere, you can just come back in with the other colour and kind of bring your outline in, and vice versa, you can come back with the darker colour and bring your outline out. But anyway, we done the outline first, and then we just filled everything in with that dark ghost grey. There you can see it is very subtle, and it has taken away quite a bit of the post pre-shading, whatever we done, the panel shading. So again, I came back in with the light ghost grey after this, just to lighten up some areas under that camo. It is very, very subtle though, and looking at the finished model, it doesn't stand out that much, but it is, you can definitely see it. You'll see in the pictures towards the end. And there we go, the camo comes right up the front. You can see it a bit more there. It looks a little patchy, but we did go in and fill everything in. I forgot to mention, to do this and the previous filling in that I was doing, I've changed over to the 0.2 needle in the UMP Apex. I've got two different ones. One set up with the 0.2 needle, which I like to use for the small detail work and metallics. Okay, and then we come back in with another darker colour to go over that camo and post shade. And this is the opposite of what we've done previously. Now we are getting the panel lines. This came out far too dark, as you can see. So we went back in with the previous colours, the light ghost grey and the dark ghost grey, to tone it down. We just done the same thing we've done previously. We used the lighter colours, which are the two previous colours in this case, in the centre of the panels, and then dusted over the panel lines with that colour just to tie it all together. There was a fair bit of back and forth, chopping and changing, using different paints, going back to the other paint and whatnot, but I really, really enjoyed it, because all that work leads to the final result, which I think looked pretty good, especially for my first ever attempt. So I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was I was pleased. I was very pleased. So next we masked off the metal areas of the back around the exhausts, and then we first tried to just paint them with straight Alclad. Didn't look great, so I decided to come in with some GX2 gloss black. This is Mr. Hobby's lacquer paint, and this was thinned with Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder, because I didn't have any Mr. Leveling thinner. Using the retarder because it helps get that glossy finish. I'm using the 0.2 again just because I wanted to control my spray a little bit more because I was too lazy to mask everything off. Yeah, just masked off what I needed to, and then came in very lightly at first with a gloss black and built up 3 coats with the 3rd coat being rather thick so we get a nice kind of glossy finish to it. And then yeah, we just made sure we hit everything we needed to, and then we moved on. Once we got the gloss black, back onto the Alclad. We're using Alclad aluminium. I know this metal on the aircraft is probably not going to be aluminium, but I didn't want to use chrome because that would be too shiny, but I still wanted a bit of shine, so we went for the Alclad aluminium, which does leave a nice shine over a gloss black base. So as we normally do with Alclad, we're going to build it up slowly. 0.2 needle yet again. This is unthinned straight from the bottle because it is pre-thinned, and we're just going to slowly build it up until we get that desired level of shine. Alclads are currently my favourite things for metals. Yeah, there's such a range. There's so many kind of different colours, so much you can do. I'm going to be looking at the MRP metals as well, I think, because I've heard some very good things about MRP, so I'll be giving those a go too. But once we're done with that aluminium, again, Alclad, this time Alclad steel, and we were going to use this to post shade like we did with our darker grey on the actual plane, on the actual body, aircraft, wings, fuselage areas. So yeah, we're just going to hit the panel lines with this, and then, yeah, that was silly. Don't ask me why I done that. That was very silly. So yeah, we're going to use this and to also singe the edges of the metal, where I'm guessing it'd get a lot hotter. So we're just going to go quite dark on the tips and then fade it in, and then we're also going to go over the panel lines with this to post shade, just to give it a bit of a tonal difference, a bit of variation, rather than it looking like a fresh, clean, brand new, super polished piece of metal. And there we go, we ended up with something like this. You can see we're just very, very lightly going over those edge pieces there. We did also then come back in with the aluminium just to get rid of that stupid steel blob, which you can see, which I done first. Don't ask me why I done that, it was very silly. But yeah, again, same kind of process, back in with the aluminium just to kind of tone it down a little. And again, yeah, pretty happy with the result. There we go, that was a little bit of a close-up. Now back to the Alclad aluminium. So again, like I said, this leaves a nice shine, but it's not as shiny as the chrome. So this is why I reached for this for the base colour for the exhausts. Again, these were gloss blacked because they were going to be a nice shiny metal, and we built up the gloss black slowly. Sorry, the Alclad slowly. The gloss black was done the same way. In hindsight, I probably would have left the feathers, I think they're called, or the pointy bits around the outside off for later, because when it came to weathering and dry brushing and dry-in washes, we had a bit of a disaster. But yeah, we'll look at that later. So that was the aluminium, and again we're coming in with the steel again to do the tips. So again, now you can see straight into the airbrush. I probably wouldn't advise tipping it in. Like, I use a pipette, don't be lazy. you will end up with paint all down the side of your airbrush. And your bottle, as you can see, my bottle here. But again, we're going at the areas which I think are going to be the darkest, so we're going right at the tip. We're using very, very, very light coats, and we're going to slowly build it up until we get what we think looks good, and then we can stop and move on. So you can see, very, very subtle. Next up, hot metal burnt carbon. Now this is very, very thin, very, very thin paint from Alclad. And as you can see, it goes absolutely everywhere when you spill it like I do. That's why the bottle is the colour it is. And yeah, don't be lazy like me, because that will happen. But we're going to do the same thing with this, really. I'm testing on the bottom because I know that bottom part is going to be hidden. And we're going to use this right on the tip to get it even hotter. Innuendos. Anyway, slowly build it up. Really, it's a really thin paint, so you want to do it thin. You want to lower your pressure if you can. And you can see again that it is just very, very subtle. Yeah, there you go. You can see the difference with the steel and the hot metal. You can see it does look a little bit more used than just the aluminium. Next up, copper. Bit of a strange choice, but I decided to use this because looking at some photos of the kind of burnt metal, there was like areas of a slight orange tinge, which I don't know what caused it. And again, I don't know what metal is used, but we just went really, really light with this copper. And we didn't go all over, we just kind of blotched it in areas slightly, just a tiny, tiny dusting in areas. And it'll give a bit of a shine. I do think I did end up going a bit too mad with this copper, because looking at the finished model, it seems to be a little bit more orange than I would have hoped. But not a problem, I still like the result. As you can see, not much, just to give it a little bit of a tinge. For once we'd done that, we moved on to decaling. Now this, I'm not going to cover in great detail, because I think there were about 67,548 decals. The majority of them were, what I'm told, are stencils, just stuff saying no step, panel numbers it looked like, just loads of mad stuff. I'm also told that these are called meatballs. I don't know why, but yeah, just take your time if you're doing Great Wall Hobby decals. They weren't the best, as you'll see later on. I did have some issues getting it all with all the stenciling, as they're called. I will show the sheet I'm talking about, and it was the first time I'd seen that many decals on a decal sheet, and it worried me. So the scheme we decided to go for was this one. I don't know what the scheme is. I don't know anything. I just thought it was a panda with nipple tassels, and it looked really, really funky. So this is what I picked. There were 3 different choices for nipple tassel pandas, and the one with the red nipple tassels is the one I went for. They had one with a scar on his face, his or her face, I'm not assuming genders, and another one. But this was the best looking nipple tassel panda, so this is why I picked him. I think he's a pirate nipple tassel panda, and I think I've said nipple tassel panda far too many times now. That's going to be stuck into my head for days. But again, Great Wall Hobby decals, first time I used them, they were okay. They did require a bit of heat just to get them to conform, just so we could see some panel lines and stuff through our nipple tassel pandas. And yeah, we ended up using a heat gun and the UMP strong decal solution. But for these kind of big ones, the main kind of livery or livery, they went down for the most part exceptionally well. And there we go, we're coming in with our heat gun just to warm up our nipple tassel pandas, just to get them to stick. And we're also warming up our meatballs for a bit of lunch. You can see I put the flaps on the wings, and also knocked the flaps off the wings too. They were knocked off and stuck back on about 53 times through the build, especially through the decaling. Speaking of decals, along with the nipple tassel pandas, we had these cool little lightning bolt things on the side. Again, there were different colour ones for different schemes, but the combination of the red lightning bolt and the red nipple tassel panda just kind of spoke to me for some reason. Went so well with the meatballs. So yeah, same thing, just kind of get it in place, just pay special attention to the instructions, which for a non-aircraft builder, for somebody who's never built a Great Wall Hobby kit before, the instructions are absolutely mental. I think there's about 5 or 6 different booklets, and they all mean different stuff and things, and I wouldn't be surprised if I've made a right pig's year of this. But anyway, these decals, like I said, went down pretty well for the most part. I'm not going to cover all of the decals because, well, this video would be 47 hours long. Yeah, I didn't record the vast majority of the build just because I didn't know what to record. I didn't record most of this. Look at that. That is insane. Anyway, we stuck all those down in very quick succession, as you can see. That was done really, really quick. And then we were going to come in with some flat clear from Tamiya, thinned with rapid thinner again to try and get a nice flat finish. Started off dusting this over, and after my first coat I noticed there were some issues, shall we say, with the decals. Now, I don't want to blame the decals. It could be the decals, it could be that I was decaling on a matte surface and I'm used to decaling on glossy surfaces and I didn't pay enough attention to the decals. But I ended up with tons of silvering. A lot of these decals are 99.9% carrier film with some writing and like bolt head kind of things knocking about. But I'll pop up a picture here. There you can see there's a lot of silvering, as I would call. Now, I hadn't seen this before and I absolutely dropped rocks. I didn't know what to do. I was worried, and luckily I was in the hangout and Paul was there, and I asked him, yo, what do I do with this? Because look at it. And yeah, he gave me a little method which which worked really well. So what we done to combat this is, and like you can see, there are tons of decals on the bottom of here, like just loads, and every single one of those stencils were kind of ruined, really. They look terrible. I'm not sure how well it's going to come out in this video, but there's a lot of silvering. So what we done is we went over the decals with a brand new blade in our knife in a crisscross pattern, just to break it through. The clear coat hadn't set properly yet. It was dry, but it wasn't cured, so that was great. And then we just got loads of decal solution and slathered it on. Give that a couple of minutes, and then we rolled over with a fresh cotton bud. Made sure to roll, but be very careful, because if you've sliced the decals like I have, essentially you've got, instead of one big decal, you've got about 40 little squares, so they can move. But thankfully, this saved it. But I did have to go back over the 67,000 decals and do it to every single one. Then after we put more matte clear down, we masked up the wheelbase. These again needed to be painted white, so what we used was the Mr. Surfacer 1500 white, the same as we used for the landing gear. So again, I'm using the 0.2 needle just because I wanted to keep a nice controlled spray, because I didn't want to waste tons and tons of masking tape. I've done this before. I've done this in a Foose build like this, and I give Dan Croak an aneurysm because I was using black paint to paint an engine bay. And then he saw me masking that up, and he shouted at me, and so did Paul from ISM, just because of overspray. Luckily, we didn't get any overspray. Thankfully. It just shows how impatient I am, and you're also going to see how impatient I was here, because I put some wash on, and then I done a dry brush. I put the wash on, and after putting that wash on, I thought, well, I can't be bothered to wait 30 minutes for this wash to dry, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the heat gun to dry it. Yeah, and that's what happens when you heat up thin bits of plastic. They melt. So, after the first 56 million decals, we had quite a few to do on the Ordinance. I didn't bother filming the painting of this because it was all relatively simple, to be honest. Painted with the light ghost grey, masked off the tips, painted in white, and then we had, well, 3 or 4 decals on each of these shooty bang bangs. I don't know if they're sparrows or stuff. I've heard the word sparrow. I don't know if these are sparrows, but they definitely pop bang boys. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where they are, but there was a couple of decals to go on. We had 4 of these. We had 4 of the little ones. There was a couple of decals to go on there, and then the drop tank, I'm led to believe this is, which goes in the middle. That was painted in very much the exact same way as the aircraft, with the panel lines, the post, the shading, the dusting, and we done a wash, panel line wash. Yeah, and then there were a couple of decals on there, and then this got glued into place on the center. These holes in the center we did have to drill previously, before we put this centerpiece on, way back when, towards the beginning of this video. I did worry that I'd drilled the wrong holes, but at this point we realized I hadn't. Now the pylons on the sides, on the wings, to hold those the shooty bang bang boys, the big blowy big bang boys, they were on and off 6 or 7 times because I kept on putting them on and dropping them off and knocking them off, and yeah, due to that they ended up not fitting excellently. So there was a bit of finagling to get them on, and we got them on. These go on super duper easy. There's 2 kind of Y-shaped clips for each, a big one and a small one, and yeah, they just slot into holes. Again, those were on and off many times throughout the build because I'm a fool, and I also put loads of little fins and antennas on, which I knocked off again thousands of times. But I suppose that's the beauty of doing something like this for the first time. You're gonna make mistakes, you know, and I did. I made a few mistakes, but I managed to fix a few of them and hide the rest. But I have mentioned them, so I'm not that guy. Here we go. Here are these pylons, which did have nice locating holes, but ended up just I ended up being able to see where they went by the panel line wash, which was still left, as you can see on the underside of the wings. So yeah, let me get my need a haircut head in and my big bugle in shot, just so you can't see the back end of the plane, and then we'll stick these pylons on. Now there were 4 smaller shooty bang bang boys, which 2 on each pylon. Again, the paint up of those was really simple, and there was just a 1 decal on each. So So yeah. I mean, I haven't really gone much into depth with the majority of this build, and that's mainly just because this video was more about the journey. No, it wasn't. It was more about the destination than the journey. This was just to show, essentially, it was for the group build. The build was for the group build, but I decided to do the video on the end just to show that this is not something I do. This is out of my comfort zone. This is like panic stations for me. But I was still able to enjoy it, still able to produce a semi-acceptable looking aircraft, and I was happy with the outcome, and that is all that matters, and that's what I wanted to show. There's going to be many people watching this video who are going to be like, what is that? What's he done? What? I hope that's going in the bin afterwards. But there's also going to be people watching this video, I hope, who are going to go, wow, that's pretty cool. And those people are going to be me, my mum, and my girlfriend. There we go, there's the big nose again. Look at that. But yeah, either way, I enjoyed, and that's all that matters. I just hope that you guys enjoyed too, to be honest. Yeah, but we're coming up to the final, the end, really. These are the doors for the wheelbase. From what I've seen, the front part of these, they're closed. Generally, they're closed. But I wanted to keep them open because there was some detail in there, and I thought, well, I might as well keep them open. They do open, so let's open them. By this point, all that was left was to slot the exhaust in, put the air brake on, which I didn't film because I'm a melon, and pop the canopy on again, which I didn't film because I'm a melon. But I did ruin the canopy because I got some overspray on the inside, and I decided to clean it with rapid thinner. Silly boy. Look at all those little tiny yellow bits and bobs and lines and letters. And, oh, there we go. Yeah, those are the flaps which fell off about 53,000 times. Just reflapping the aircraft, making sure I don't get glue on my meatballs, and making sure my nipple tassel pandas don't fall off. And then, yeah, I suppose it's on to the final shots. So there we are. There is our F-15J, complete with meatballs, flaps, and nipple tassel pandas. Like I said, I have really enjoyed this build. The painting was my favourite part. There were a couple of little annoying areas, but we got it done. Luckily, we got past that silvering. Yeah, I hope Mr. Pashley is looking up at us now and calling me all of the names under the sun for doing such a terrible job on this. That would make my day, and his, probably. But yeah, here we are. Thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. But in the meantime, have a great day and stay safe.